For those of you who recall in my old days, I froze my little tushy over at Standing Rock um, in 2016 and 2017 to show you what American fascism looks like. And in Standing Rock, you had the North Dakota, specifically Morton County Sheriff's Department, basically, shooting grenades at Native Americans and environmental activists who were unarmed, freezing water, tear gas, pepper spray, all sorts of horrific things in service of a private oil company. So the police, they obeyed their orders in service to a private oil company, which is corporate fascism at its finest. And then, adding insult to injury, if you remember back to the Standing Rock days, the Trump administration reimbursed the police department, the North Dakota Morton County Sheriff's Office. They reimbursed their law enforcement costs, overtime, equipment, all that, for beating the living out of Native Americans and environmental activists. So the government basically covered the expenses for this fascism in service of big oil. Okay? So on one end, the North Dakota police, paid for by the taxpayers, by the way, were happy to obey orders from above in deference to private oil. But when the North Dakota governor issues a mask mandate, by the way, the North Dakota governor is Republican. North Dakota is as red as they come. Here is a local sheriff responding to the North Dakota governor mask mandate as North Dakota has been just overtaken by COVID. It is insane right now in North Dakota and South Dakota in terms of COVID cases. Private oil, big oil, no problem. We'll obey your orders. We'll beat up protesters. We'll shoot grenades. A 21-year-old nearly lost her arm because they shot a grenade at her back at Standing Rock. But here is the McKenzie County Sheriff's response to the North Dakota governor about the mask mandate. In response to the mask mandate that has been put out by the state, Governor Burgum stated he wanted law enforcement to prioritize education in their enforcement, providing warnings and education about the risk of transmission, and reserving penalties for the most egregious violations that put the public health at risk. The McKenzie County Sheriff's Office will not be enforcing any mask mandates, and we will not be enforcing mandates on businesses. We feel that to do so takes away from your liberty to live freely under the Constitution of the United States. As residents of North Dakota, our preamble states, quote, "We, the people of North Dakota, grateful to the Almighty God for the blessings of civil and religious liberty, do ordain and establish this Constitution." Under that section, one states that we are independent and free. As such, we should be free to choose for ourselves if we will wear a mask or not wear a mask. As sheriff, I believe the Constitution and Declaration of Independence say it best that we should each be free to govern ourselves as a state and as a nation. To that accord, this mandate is not a law that we have passed or desire to see passed. With that established, the McKenzie County Sheriff's Office will not be enforcing any such mandate. Oh boy. Where do you begin? Where do you even begin, folks? And let me get the numbers just to give you the completely updated numbers. Where's my COVID tracker? COVID tracker. Yesterday in America, we had 149,000 cases, 581 deaths. So deaths were a little bit down, but cases are still through the roof. You've been seeing 150,000, 160,000 cases over the last week. And in one case, one day, I think it was closer to 170,000 cases. But yesterday, you had 153,000 cases. Let me look just at North Dakota, where this fakakta sheriff apparently, believes freedom to act like an idiot and not wear a mask. The right to do that apparently outweighs the right to live for those that do care about living more than the tyranny of wearing a mask. If you look at North Dakota, let's see. Yesterday, they had over 1,000 cases in North Dakota. Deaths at 7. But the point, what we have seen with COVID across the country, it takes a while for the deaths to start catching up to the cases. So you see in North Dakota, they're up 21% in terms of cases over the last 2 weeks. They're up 27% among deaths. That death count is going to start increasing because it takes a little while. Once cases are identified, it takes a while for things to get really bad and, frankly, for people to die. So what's amazing to me, and just to be clear, this is not the same sheriff. This is not the same county as Standing Rock. So in the terms of Standing Rock, that was Morton County Sheriff, who was very quick and very, very eager to obey a private oil company's orders. The Morton County Sheriff was basically serving as the protective police force for Big Oil. If you remember, President Obama, his Department of Homeland Security, his U.S. Marshals, his FBI was working at the time with the Morton County Police and North Dakota troopers to infiltrate the camp of water protectors, to insert moles, FBI moles in the camp, to surveil the camp. So everybody got very, up in a tizzy that Donald Trump sent federal troops into Portland. Rightly so. We should have been upset. The same people that were outraged at that didn't say a god thing when Obama's federal troops were working with North Dakota state officials to surveil and, frankly, attack peaceful protesters. So that was Morton County Sheriff. This is a different county. But the bottom line is, it's all the same. It's North Dakota law enforcement. Look at those priorities. So the North Dakota police, Morton County Sheriff, in 2016 and 2017, they didn't care at all about the constitutional rights of Native Americans, of environmental activists that came from around the country, and by the way, the world, to protest at Standing Rock on behalf of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, on behalf of the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, on behalf of the Oglala Sioux, excuse me if I'm mispronouncing, tribe. They didn't care about those protesters' constitutional rights. Remember they called them eco-terrorists? You're an eco-terrorist for banging drums, dancing, singing, and peacefully protesting against literally a ticking time bomb, a crude oil pipeline going underneath the longest river in the United States, the Missouri River, which served drinking water downstream to 20 million people. Not to mention the desecration of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe's ancestral burial grounds, their reservation. This was going right through their reservation. It's interesting that the North Dakota police didn't give a flying excuse my French, swear jar, didn't give a flying about people's constitutional rights then. But now, in a different county, they're literally disobeying the governor of the state, a Republican. They're disobeying a Republican governor's mask mandate because they care very much about the constitutional freedoms of people not to wear a mask. This is culture war on steroids. And you know who I blame? Donald Trump. I've never had Trump derangement syndrome. I got for the last 4.5 years for not covering him 24/7. But this psychosis, this don't tread on me, I would rather die than wear a mask, this masks becoming the new guns, this came from the top. You know this is a cult that follows Trump. You know that in March and April, if Trump would have acted like a strong man, if Trump would have worn a mask, if Trump would have attacked people who won't wear masks as socialists and communists and tore them down, every one of those in North Dakota and South Dakota and all these states that won't wear masks would be following their fearless leader. Is he responsible for coronavirus? No. Did a lot more people die because this president was out to lunch in March and April? He didn't want to do a goddamn thing about this, as he told Bob Woodward on tapes that were later released. I wanted to play it down all along. This is why you have radical sheriffs like this in North Dakota. This is why you have radical public officials all over the country now defying mask mandates, partly to rise in their own political profile and, capitalize off of Trumpism and, look like they're leading some new civil rights movement against masks, but they're all following Trump. And frankly, who's going to die? Who's going to suffer? These same idiots in North Dakota that are refusing to wear the masks. I'm not here to tell you wearing a mask is 100% foolproof. In April, I got coronavirus, and I had worn a mask when I went outside. So it's not 100% foolproof, but there's study after study after study that says if you wear a mask, your chances of spreading the virus or contracting it go down as much as 70%. You know, I asked the Trump supporter, is wearing a seatbelt tyranny? We all agree wearing a seatbelt, because wearing a seatbelt doesn't 100% stop. I mean, if your car flips over or you get hit by a Mack truck, you could die. You're likely to die wearing a seatbelt or not. But it certainly gives you a better chance than not wearing a seatbelt. Why is this any different? Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.